Hello. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Woo! Like I said, we're going to go ahead and get started while everybody's eating. My name is Heather Walker-Taylor. I'm a Chehalis tribal member. I'm also a descendant of the Quinault Nation. I welcome each and every one of you here today. This is the 10th year that the city of Seattle has had Indigenous Peoples Day. 10 years. 10 years we've been doing this. And to get things started, I just want to say that some little one, I think, because it's a little wet, lost a drumstick along the way. So if it's yours, please come and get it. And then to get started, I'd like to introduce you all to Jenifer Chao, who is the Director, Department of Neighborhoods.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. What a beautiful day, and what a great place to see so many people in community and the diversity in this place. I am so excited to join you today. My parents are also here to celebrate with you in community. So I brought my family. It is important to us that we are here. In the past decade, our city has taken great strides to recognize the leadership of tribal and urban Native communities in our region. And Mayor Bruce Harrell's role in creating positive change is true partnership with Native communities. In 2014, when Mayor Harrell was still a council member, he worked with Councilmember Sawant as a co-sponsor to pass a resolution to officially recognize Indigenous Peoples Day across our city. I am honored to be here today to celebrate with you. Since that time, whether he was Councilmember Harrell or Mayor Harrell, he has supported many initiatives to honor the legacy and ongoing contributions of our American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities. In partnership with Council President Juarez, Mayor Harrell has supported our city's efforts to address the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people. He also hosted our city's first Tribal Nations Summit and has been a strong support of our Indigenous Advisory Council. As we continue to partner with all of you to build a more inclusive and welcoming Seattle, we know Mayor Harrell will continue to strengthen and amplify the work of our Native communities across the region. It is my pleasure to welcome Mayor Bruce Harrell to the stage to present the 2023 Indigenous Peoples Day Proclamation.
Thank you very much, Jenifer. I'm going to raise this up just a little bit, or break it. Absolutely honored and excited to be here. Just a few remarks, but what's most importantly I want to read the official proclamation that goes into our city's history to honor Indigenous peoples. And when I say honor, part of our obligation as a city is to learn from the Indigenous people. That's part of this celebration, such that those who are not part of the traditional community can learn. And then to acknowledge our sins, our mistakes, our errors, our atrocities as a country, as a state, as a city, to make sure that we learn and we be better, we get better, we are better through policies and investments. So that's why I'm honored to be part of this great celebration, Director Chao. Thank you for that introduction. I'd like to also welcome and recognize Vice Chair Donny Stevenson from the Muckleshoot Tribal Council. Let's give Donny a hand, and if there's one thing I've learned about Brother Stevenson is you just don't mess with him. Don't get on his bad side. In all seriousness, thank you, Vice Chair Donny Stevenson, for being here. I want to recognize Councilmember Sawant, who I believe will share some words with us. And if there are any other elected officials here, I'd like to acknowledge you. I haven't seen any, but I'm sure there might be some coming here. So today we've come together to center, recognize, and celebrate the culture, history, and indeed the resilience of the Indigenous communities and tribal nations here in the Puget Sound region, and indeed across the country. This year's theme, honoring our elders, past and present, advances and continued commitment to recognize and celebrate the legacy and ongoing contributions our American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities have and will continue to have on American society and in our Puget Sound region. I'd like to read, as I close, the official proclamation. You young folks, you'll need these one day, so you just bear with this mayor. Whereas the City of Seattle recognizes that the indigenous peoples of the lands that would later become known as the Americas have occupied these lands since time immemorial, and that Seattle is built upon the homelands and villages of the indigenous peoples of this region, without whom the building of the city would not have been possible. And whereas the city values the many contributions made to our community through indigenous people's knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and the deep cultural contribution that has substantially shaped the character of the city of Seattle. And whereas the city of Seattle has a responsibility to oppose the systematic racism towards indigenous peoples in the United States, which perpetuates high rates of poverty and income inequality, exacerbating disproportionate health, education, and social crises. And whereas the city promotes the closing of the equity gap for indigenous peoples through policies and practices that reflect the experiences of indigenous peoples to ensure greater access and opportunity, and to honor our nation's indigenous roots, history, and contributions. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations, sponsored the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And my last clause, and whereas in 2014, the mayor, the City Council of Seattle, and the Seattle Human Rights Commission, thank you for being here, commissioners, declared the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day to promote tolerance, understanding, and friendship, and to combat prejudice and eliminate discrimination stemming from colonization. And on March 29, 2022, the City Council unanimously passed Ordinance 126559, establishing Indigenous Peoples Day as a legal holiday. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Harrell, Mayor of Seattle, and the City Council do hereby proclaim October 9th, 2023 to be Indigenous Peoples Day, and now we all clap and celebrate. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We now have a gift for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker is Councilmember Kshama Sawant. She is a socialist on the City Council, and in 2014 worked together with the urban Native community to sponsor and win the legislation creating Indigenous Peoples Day here in Seattle. She worked subsequent years with the Indigenous Peoples Day Planning Committee and members of the city's Canoes Affinity Group to plan the rally and march each year and work to fund the City of Seattle's budget in her People's Budget campaign. She's been here every year since we have had Seattle's Indigenous Peoples Day, and I'd like to raise my hands to her and welcome her to the stage.
Sisters, brothers, siblings, happy Indigenous Peoples Day. It's really fantastic to be here with you all. It's hard to believe that nearly a decade has passed. Some of you probably were babies or children then. Nearly a decade since Matt Remley and a whole host of urban Native activists came to my Socialist City Council office in the fall of 2014 with a proposal to abolish Columbus Day, which is a despicable, or was a despicable celebration of genocide and imperialism, and replacing it with Indigenous Peoples Day. A few months earlier, before then, Socialist Alternative and my newly elected city council office at that time, together with thousands of rank-and-file workers, union and non-union alike, activists and socialists, had won the historic $15 an hour minimum wage, making Seattle the first major city in the country to do so. Today's cost of living has soared so much beyond where it was 9 years ago, and now Seattle's minimum wage needs to be at least $25 an hour. If we want to win that, then the lessons of how Seattle's working people won $15 an hour are crucial. Seattle's Democratic Party-led political establishment fought tooth and nail against the $15 minimum wage. But faced with a mass movement led by workers and socialists willing to pack City Hall over and over, calling out the Democrats who were opposed to the interests of working people, exposing the attempted backroom negotiations against workers, building public rallies and marches, we were able to threaten the Democrats that if they didn't pass 15 by a city council legislation, then we would bring a $15 an hour minimum wage ballot initiative, and the Democrats were forced to back down. That's how you win. We won at breakneck speed just 6 months after taking office, based on the power of the movements that we have been building. After that, we were already working with hundreds of mostly immigrant, low-income renters of the Seattle Housing Authority, residents who were fighting against the efforts by the federal and the local and regional Democratic Party establishment, politicians and bureaucrats of the Seattle Housing Authority who are attempting to raise the rent of some of our poorest immigrant and people of color neighbors by 400% in 5 years. And every time I say, people say that must be a printing error. It was 400% attempted rent increase. And we defeated that rent increase because we fought back. And it was during that same time, in the autumn of 2014, that we won the Indigenous Peoples Day. And it was an illustration of how class struggle against economic exploitation should and does go hand in hand with class struggle against oppression and imperialism. It is easy to forget after nearly a decade, given now that Indigenous Peoples Day is ubiquitous. Now you have Democratic Party politicians coming here and doing their photo ops with people like they always supported it. But the reality is that we, urban natives, our community, socialists, we had to wage a real struggle. And it took grassroots leaders like Matt Remley, Deo Esquivel, Shannon Morrison, Millie Kennedy, and many others whose names I couldn't possibly take because it would take so long. We were fortunate to have so many, along with City of Seattle workers, Socialist Alternative, my organization, and my office. It's because we all fought together that we were able to win this. And Matt and others will tell you that for decades, the Democratic establishment, including those calling themselves progressives, had refused to create Indigenous Peoples Day and end Columbus Day, always paying just lip service, but never once bringing it forward as legislation that they had to take a position on. As the ordinance notes, Indigenous Peoples Day was proposed way back in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations. In 2011, the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians, representing 59 tribes from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northern California, Western Montana, and some Alaskan tribes, passed a resolution to support changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. But it took a socialist getting elected and a movement of urban natives to win it in the most major city. And then it took only months, not years. And we made it clear that we were not going to just go away quietly into the night by just making the demand. And that's when the Democratic Party immediately switched tactics and tried to do what they always do, which is try and neuter the demand and co-opt the movement in the process. This meant them trying to make it not about abolishing Columbus Day, but about celebrating both at the same time. Tell me, how do you celebrate Indigenous people and the fight against genocide and imperialism while also celebrating that genocide and imperialism? It was important that everybody on the ground united into refusing this insulting proposal and that we fought together. As I noted in my speech at the time of our victory, I said this resolution is about more than just a name change. It is about educating ourselves and our children, about taking a stand against racism and discrimination. When Columbus arrived on this continent, there were an estimated 50 to 100 million Indigenous people already living in what came to be known as the New World. I mean, they were looking for India, where I came from. I'm also an Indian, just from another part of the world. They couldn't get their geography right. But Columbus did not embark, and Columbus and the European ruling class at that time did not embark on a simple voyage of exploration. It was always intended as a voyage of conquest, exploitation, and ultimately colonization. We also rejected the divide and conquer tactic attempted by some politicians. I noted in that speech, Italian Americans, working people, Italian Americans, were at the forefront of some of the most important labor and human rights struggles in the 19th and 20th centuries in this country. These are the real Italian American heroes that we should be celebrating, not Columbus. Seattle was not the first jurisdiction to pass Indigenous Peoples Day, and we honor the activists in other cities who had won it before us. But our victory, and importantly, the way we won, made major news and was a huge catalyst for additional victories and the widespread acceptance of Indigenous Peoples Day that we see today. At the time, I remember CNN, NPR, Al Jazeera, media across the world were reporting on what we had won here. And then, as with every reform that ordinary people, working people win, we had to immediately then get organized to defend it. We had to defend it, Indigenous Peoples Day, as a day born out of struggle. That meant that we had to continue the fight for funding Indigenous Peoples Day going forward. And those of you who were there, remember that it was a real fight. And then we passed a resolution, we won a resolution, which I think is the first one, to my knowledge, to have a U.S. city acknowledge and condemn the horrific U.S. Indian boarding school policy, which harmed as many as 100,000 Native children during the nearly 100 years that it was in effect. And once again, the urban Native community came in big numbers to fight for it. But not before we had to defeat the then Councilmember Bruce Harrell, who made a desperate attempt to undercut our movement by having the gall to put together a resolution which was intended for a vote on Indigenous Peoples Day, no less, the year after, to celebrate October as Italian American Heritage Month, but this resolution, we have no problem celebrating Italian American heritage. But this resolution specifically named Christopher Columbus as someone who, quote, helped shape our modern world by doing what no others had accomplished, end quote. This was a backdoor attempt to take away our Indigenous Peoples Day victory. And again, we won, we forced them to back down. We forced Harrell and others to back down, but only because we made this scandalous proposal public and we fought openly against them. This is a very important lesson, sisters and brothers and siblings, that when the people in power, no matter who they are, if they try to undercut our movement, we don't win by trying to have nice sit-down behind-the-scenes discussions with them. They are not our friends if they are undermining us. We have to stand true to the people we say we represent, and we have to fight publicly and empower others to join us to do so. I could talk for hours about what all we have won, but I'll just name a couple of other things that we won that some of you will remember. We won the struggle to divest city money from the fossil fuel funding Wells Fargo Bank, which was led by urban native communities alongside environmental activists, the same as the Shell No fight against allowing Shell to house its massive oil drilling rig in Terminal 5 at Seattle's port, which, by the way, at the time, the native leaders forced me to go on a canoe ride, which I was really nervous about, but I was happy that I did that. It was a great experience. Over the last decade, we have fought for and won so many things. We won the historic Amazon tax in 2020 as part of the victories of the George Floyd protests. And in fact, the Amazon tax revenues, which come from taxing the wealthiest people in Seattle, has become a backbone of the city's budget. Without that, in fact, we would have seen massive austerity that the city was able to prevent. But since then, what have we seen? We have seen the pandemic benefits having eliminated. Child tax credits have been eliminated, and families, working class and poor families with children, have been plunged even more into poverty. Student debt payments have resumed, and Medicaid payments have been severely curtailed, and rent is continuing to skyrocket, and evictions are back at a ferocious rate. In other words, what we are seeing is that despite all the struggles we have waged and won, capitalism is relentless in continuing to extract a deeper and more horrendous price from millions, tens of millions, and globally billions of working people, poor and marginalized communities. We know that the rate of poverty and homelessness is disproportionate among American Indian and Alaskan Native communities, and that they bear a tragically disproportionate brunt of the multiple crises of food, gas, clothing, and everything being out of our reach. And what else are we seeing? We are seeing President Biden, who famously made a promise on his campaign trail that there was not going to be any border wall on his watch, has just approved billions of dollars for a border wall, and is making hay of the struggle between American-born communities of color and immigrant-born communities of color in the divide and conquer strategy. The only solution against all of this is for us to push back against this divide and conquer and recognize that the fight, the struggle is not between community that is marginalized against another community that is marginalized. It is against the powers that be, and we have to unite against Wall Street, the billionaire class, and the political establishments that represent them. And so we have to learn the lessons of how we have won these victories, and also gear up for the next immediate fight. The next immediate fight is coming up in the next month and a half right here in City Hall. You will hear progressive Democrats saying, this is a biennial budget. It's not even a real budget. So don't come to us with big demands to increase funding for social services. Do not buy into these lies. There is nothing different about this year's budget than any other year's budget, other than the fact that the politicians of the Democratic Party are looking to screw us. So we have to fight back like every other year that we have done in people's budget, but even more so now, because those of you who are reading the tea leaves know there is a recession around the corner. So as hard as our lives are now with the cost of living crisis, it is only going to get that much worse, but only for us. This is not a shared sacrifice. This is going to be a sacrifice for us while the billionaires continue making their profits. So please sign up on the petition that Adam has so that we can fight to increase the Amazon tax and say, we reject an austerity budget. We reject an austerity budget, tax big business, increase the Amazon tax so that we can fund our needs. And last but not least, as some of you know, this is my last year on the City Council, but the fight cannot end. The lessons that we have learned here have to be applied going forward. So I urge you all to join the movement that I have launched recently called Workers Strike Back. Workers Strike Back is fighting nationally for a $25 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all, union jobs, a fight against oppression and discrimination, and for a new party for working people. So please join us. The struggle must continue. Solidarity.
Thank you. Before you take off, we do have a gift there for you. And I really want to thank you for all of the years that you have helped make this event possible. Thank you. So, as we heard, this year's theme is honoring our elders past and present. And we wouldn't be able to do that without also acknowledging and honoring our youth. So our next speaker is from the Urban Native Education Alliance, Lane Ryan. Please welcome Lane.
Hello, my name is Lane Ryan. I'm Yongtanai Sioux from Fort Peck, Montana. I'm an intern with Urban Native Education Alliance and a student at the University of Washington. First, I would like to say how thankful I am to be here to share this speech and to spend time here at this Indigenous Peoples Day event. I found UNEA my junior year of high school, and it has changed my life for the better. UNEA is an organization founded in 2008 to engage all generations to serve and empower Native youth through education, culture, and tradition. Having participated in the events we host, the educational classes and community work, it has reconnected me to such a strong Native community I had not experienced before. I'm so grateful to be able to work with such amazing people. The youth interns, teachers, mentors from other local organizations, everyone is so committed to teaching and carrying forward our way of life. But most importantly, I'm so grateful to be able to work with our elders. To me, I was taught elders are not just a status that comes with age, but what you do for your community, how you pass on teachings to the young ones, the respect and patience you walk with day to day. You must earn the title of an elder, which I quickly came to find that UNEA was filled with honorable elders. When I first met Sarah Oglala, it was at a weekly UNEA meeting. She was zooming around, directing, managing, and leading. The silences in the room were filled with questions like, "Where's Sarah? Have you seen Sarah?" And I instantly knew that she is someone I was going to look up to. Having such a strong, smart, Native woman leader in my life has really impacted my life for the better. She pushes me to speak up, work harder, and lead with confidence. I will forever be grateful for Sarah Sense Wilson. I first met Matthew Warbonnet, Rosebud, when he came and taught us a traditional song. The first song he taught us was War Party. This song is about when the Battle of Greasy Grass was starting, a young boy ran to another village to warn others before the U.S. cavalry came. He sang this song as he was running over. Getting to learn the song by Matthew has been one of the most memorable moments in my life. Before teaching us any words, he started with the importance of caring for our drums. He gave each of the youth some sage to keep inside and taught us our drum is not just an object, but something that has spirit and should be cared for like a baby. Matthew was the first elder to share with me a plain song and teachings, and I will always hold that with me. After spending more time with him, I also learned that he is a boarding school survivor of St. Francis Mission. In hearing about how he shared his experiences before Congress in May 2022 and has many articles about his time at St. Francis, I saw how courageous, gentle, and inspiring he is. 2 summers ago, UNEA worked on making a mural for Ingram High School. This project was led by Kayla Harstad, Turtle Mountain Chippewa, and Giselle Jenkins, Anunnik, and they asked artist and elder John Romero, Northern Shoshone, to co-lead. As an experienced muralist, I knew months later when I would make a mural at my high school, I wanted to invite him. He came into this project with such good energy and intentions, and shared with me all his wisdom to creating Native art. I really enjoyed those months working with him. And when things got difficult with my school regarding the project, he was right there at those meetings supporting me. John pushed me to keep going with my head high, focus on the positive, and to not let the school hold me back. I will always remember his support for me. And finally, last year at this Indigenous Peoples Day event, I met Kay Fiddler, Toroma and Chippewa. She welcomed me with open arms and took me in as one of her own. Being around her brings me so much peace and calmness. She, too, is another strong Plains woman who carries herself with integrity and traditional teachings. Kay is somebody I know will always be there for me when I need to ask questions about ceremony or just to talk. Like John and Sarah, when times got hard with my school with the art project, she, too, was at those meetings with the administration, questioning them and making them think about their actions. Kay is a resilient, compassionate, and loyal friend who I will always enjoy spending time with. These are only some of the amazing elders I work with at UNEA. The whole community there is so important and will have an everlasting impact on me. The support for urban natives UNEA provides is something everybody should admire. My love for these people is so strong, and I'm so grateful to work with the elders of the Native Seattle community. Indigenous Peoples Day to me is about unity, awareness, and recognition about what our fellow relatives are doing in the community. And so by honoring our elders on Indigenous Peoples Day is a beautiful way to show respect and gratitude for their wisdom and contributions. They hold the knowledge of our cultures and traditions, passing it down to future generations. We should celebrate their resilience and learn from their experiences. Wopita Tonka. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. And next we have our keynote speaker. He is the vice chairman of the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe. Yes, give him a hand. Donny Stevenson is an elected member of the Muckleshoot Tribal Council and serves as the vice chairman, a role that he considers to be the greatest honor of his professional life. Donny has worked as an executive level leader in Indian country for 25 years, serving his tribe and Native people. He attended Evergreen State College, where he earned his formal education with a bachelor's degree in liberal arts focused on Native American studies. Donny is passionate about accessing the traditional teachings and wisdoms of the ancestors and elders to build a sustainable, successful future for all, but particularly his tribal people and community. He believes sustainable futures are achieved through a lens of collaborative spirit toward unity while asserting tribal identity, self-governance, and sovereignty. This approach ultimately builds pathways of creativity, healing, persistence, reclamation, and opportunity through the strength and legacy provided by tribal culture and tradition. Please put your hands together and welcome Vice Chairman Donny Stevenson.
We arts, Halt Sleha, Donny Stevenson Tietstad, Muckleshoot Abchad. Welcome, welcome. My name is Donny Stevenson, and I'm Muckleshoot. I'm a member of the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe, the vice chairman of the Muckleshoot Tribal Council, and a member of the City of Seattle's Indigenous Advisory Council. I'd like to first acknowledge the 574 federally recognized tribes throughout this country. and the 29 federally recognized tribes that exist here within the state of Washington. It's each and every one of you that we're here today to celebrate, that we're here today to come together to share this time in this space. And it's incredibly meaningful, incredibly powerful, and just a wonderful opportunity to come together in a good way with a good heart. As I look out amongst this crowd, and I looked out amongst the prayer walk that we made from Westlake Center to here at Seattle's City Hall, I see the strength and the beauty of all of those nations represented. And that's such a beautiful thing for these eyes to be able to bear witness to today. A big part of our community and our beliefs here as Salish people is acting as witness that will designate individuals to be the keepers of memory for issues and incidents that we're a part of. And I got to witness so much beauty, strength, perseverance this morning as we came together as a people unified to celebrate everything that our people have given to the world that we live in today. I do have some prepared remarks, but before I get into that, I want to have just a little bit of a conversation. And first thing, in just acknowledging all of the strength and beauty that's here, and those 574 nations, and those 29 nations, I'm going to count to 3 in my language. And when I count to 3, I want each and every person here who's a member of a tribe to shout out the nation you represent. This goes for everybody who's here in the lobby, but this also goes for everybody who's in the back here and serving meal. So I'm going to count to 3, and at the top of your lungs, I want you to holler the nation you represent. Ready? Dachu, Sali, Kli, Bakushu! So much power, so much strength, so much beauty in all of those nations. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about my tribe, the Muckleshoot tribe. First things first, Muckleshoot is not the traditional name of our people. If you speak of the name in our language, it's closer to Buckleshoot. And Buckleshoot does not reference any specific tribe. What Buckleshoot does reference is a specific location. It's a place name that exists on the reservation that all of our people were collectively relocated to. So our reservation is about 5.5 square mile tract of land that exists between the cities of Auburn and Enumclaw today, about 23 miles south of where we stand. Our usual and accustomed lands were from the base of the Salish Sea, all the way, the shores of the Salish Sea, all the way to the base of the Cascade Range. That 99% or 90% of Muckleshoot people carry Duwamish lineage, that we are the political successor of the Duwamish tribe. That's who Muckleshoot is, amongst many other nations from the White and the Green River and the prairies that existed between here and there. Buckleshoot, in our language, has a very specific meaning. What Buckleshoot means or translates to roughly in English is a lookout place, or a place from which to look out. And it almost carries the connotation of like a nose on a face. Buckleshoot refers to a very specific spot on the reservation. Today, roughly on the plateau where our reservation sits, it comes to a point that looks northward towards the city. And historically, you could walk out to the tip of that point of the plateau and you could see where the Green and the White River converged. That spot on our reservation is Buckleshoot. Over the hundreds of years that have taken place since our relocation, that name, where our people were moved to, came to take on the connotation of all the people who were moved there. So all of those individual villages from amongst the Cedar River, the White River, the Green River, the shores of the lake, the shores of Elliott Bay, all of those folks who were removed and placed on the reservation there became known by the name of the place they were moved to. That's the history of my people. And that's who we are as Muckleshoot people. We're the first peoples of this land. And that's an important part of the legacy, the history, and the story that I'm here to share today. Along the same lines, I wanted to talk a little bit about the traditional name for this region. So we recently came together with the city and the Suquamish Nation to celebrate the ceremonial renaming of Alaskan Way along the waterfront. Dzidzalalich is the new name of Alaskan and Elliott Way along the waterfront. And what Dzidzalalich really is the original place name for where we are, for our people. So for hundreds of generations and thousands of years, the area where we stand today was known by that name. If you go back and look at the history of the place that we are, there were literally more than 10,000 place names just for the Puget Sound alone. Our people had tapped in to this place naturally over the course of our collective history in a way that really lays the foundation and the groundwork for everything that exists here within the cityscape today. The bones of this city really are indigenous in nature. That this city is owes a debt of gratitude to us as the first people of the land, because without us, the city wouldn't exist. And that's an important thing for us to talk about, to acknowledge, and to celebrate, especially today. Dzidzalalich in our language translates to a place to cross over, or the little crossing over place. And really what that refers to is the waterfront looks very different historically than it looks today. That you look at the piers and the way the waterfront is shaped, that's all constructed and man-made. So once upon a time, there was a spit of land that you could walk across, and that existed roughly today along what is now the new term Dzidzalalich Way, previously Alaskan Way, and the corner of Washington and corner of Yesler. And at that point, you could cross that tidal spit of land between the freshwater lagoons that were located inland and the tidelands which were located along the shore. That spit of land was a place to cross. It was also, if you look up what is today Yesler, that from that point along the shore, it was a direct pathway to the shores of Lake Washington. So that's so indicative of the way our people named the places of this region. Because when you think of it in those terms, you can almost picture what's being talked about, a little crossing over place, or a place from which to cross over. Dzidzalalich was meaningful. Muckleshoot is meaningful. That when you think of the way our people describe the place they're from, it shows an inherent understanding. It shows that we're tied to this place in a way that's meaningful. It shows that ultimately this place doesn't exist without us, because we don't exist without this place. That's who we are as Indigenous people. I raise my hands for that. I'm thankful for that. That's a part of who each and every one of us are today, and we must never forget it. Sort of the last sort of free thought before I go into some prepared remarks I wanted to talk about was to provide a little bit of personal background about myself, particularly about my name. That when you hear Vice Chairman Donny Stevenson, it doesn't sound inherently Indigenous. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's tied very directly to the colonization that's taken place in this country. That's been a matter of policy. That Stevenson is the name of my father's adopted parents. That my father is a Muckleshoot tribal member. He takes blood from both the Muckleshoot tribe here in the state, within our homelands, and he takes blood from the Grand Ronde people in southern central Oregon. He had 12 siblings. My dad had 12 siblings, brothers and sisters. All of them were removed from the home. None of them grew up with their parents. None of them grew up within the house they were born within. They were all removed, that they were all placed within the Western system. My father was blessed. He was adopted by a wonderful family, a family that loved him, that took care of him, that adopted him and legally made them a member of their family. His 12 brothers and sisters weren't as blessed as he was. Many of them spent time in the boarding school systems. Many of them spent time in orphanages, as they were referred to back then, group homes. Some of them ran away, and they spent their childhood finding a way for themselves. My family is a beautiful metaphor for what's happened in Indian country throughout this nation, that every one of those siblings was able to find a way back to their home, to their tribal people. That it wasn't until adulthood for some of them. My father didn't find his way back to Muckleshoot until he was 22 years old when I was born. I was blessed to grow up within my tribal community the entirety of my life because he was fortunate enough to find out where he was from, who his people were, and to find a place within that community. And his siblings were also all able to find a way back to either the Muckleshoot or the Grand Ronde community and to assert themselves and learn how to be siblings, to learn how to be family, to learn how to be members of a tribe, and to learn how to be members of the indigenous community. Sadly, the truth is that we don't have a single person in this room, there's probably not a single person watching over the airwaves who's indigenous, who doesn't have a similar story that's a part of their background and family, that this is a part of our shared lineage and history. But what I'll say is how challenging, how difficult, and how traumatic that history is. Look at where we are today. Look at the strength, look at the fortitude, that we're able to find a way to become who we really are, that we're able to find a way to our own people and to come together and to relearn how to be indigenous, to relearn how to be community, to relearn how to be family. That's a thing of beauty, and I thank our ancestors and elders. I raise my hands to all of them for the fortitude to be able to do so. I truly am so humbled and proud to be here today, to share this space with all of you, my beautiful people. It's such an honor that I've been asked to serve as the keynote speaker for this important day of recognition, of reverence for all indigenous peoples, particularly those of the city of Seattle and for those from throughout the Salish Sea. Particularly powerful and meaningful to me personally because this event takes place within our Muckleshoot homelands. Though the city formally proclaimed the second Monday in October to be Indigenous Peoples Days, originally in 2014, it was technically just last year in 2022 that the city formally observed the holiday through closure. To my knowledge, in all of that time, in all of that history, I am the first Muckleshoot tribal member to hold the honor and privilege to make this formal address, to share our voice in our homeland. Additionally, this year's theme, honoring our elders past and present, it couldn't be more appropriate or meaningful. For our people, our elders provide the foundation on which all that is indigenous is built. They truly are the keepers of our wisdom, they're the keepers of our knowledge, and they act as our collective memory. I raise my hands to them and thank them for the opportunity to be here. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who has prepared me for this moment and opportunity, particularly my beautiful family who are taking up roughly the whole front row, my Muckleshoot tribal community, my fellow tribal leaders, past and present. I'll do my very best to represent you all to the best of my ability, to carry each of you with me in a way that honors you all, that acknowledges all that you've gifted to me and given to me, and in a way that you can all be incredibly proud of. Today's good work, or in our language, Hatsiyayus, is a direct reflection of all of this, and it culminates in each of us being here, coming together to celebrate together. The city of Seattle is an inherently indigenous city in nature, owing so much of its history and identity to the first peoples of this land. And today represents an important recognition and celebration of this fact. I'm incredibly thankful for this. My hands are raised to all who made this possible. Sut Siab for all our people. I'm extremely proud of and thankful to the Indigenous leadership, past and present, for the amazing opportunities we as tribal people have today. It's because of the vision, the dedication, and the hard work of our ancestors and elders that we're fortunate to be as blessed as tribal nations as we are today. For that fact, I thank all that have served and continue to serve as leaders, as well as those who have carried out that vision. It's in this same spirit that I believe in constant improvement. It's just one of the vital and continued successes that we see as Indigenous people as necessary, and it's just as important as any other principle that we look to engage in. Now's not the time to rest on our laurels, but instead to work that much harder to ensure that our future and our continued success as Indigenous people, ensure the future of our people is what being Indigenous is really all about. Indigenous people, the world needs us now more than ever. Our peoples are the only in the whole history of the world who have shown the real ability to live in balance and sustainably with our lands and with our environment. Over the course of generations and over the course of millennia, we're the only ones in the history of the world to be able to do so. Thanks to the wisdom of our people, the teachings of our elders and our ancestors, we understand our place within creation. We're but a single thread within the weave of existence. That our plant and animal relatives are our family, and the earth is our great mother. Today, as the entire world faces the greatest crisis created by man ever before, any of us, in climate change, we must act as the voice for and speak on behalf of these relations. We must help provide the conscience for human beings in a way that we treat our great mother. If it's not us, then who do we expect to play this vitally important role? Knowing the terms and conditions of treaties is a vitally important function for us as Native American people. Treaties, their intent, purpose, and application are one of the least understood yet most important factors in understanding the complex government-to-government relationship that exists between tribal nations and the United States federal government. Treaty rights are not given to Indian people. They're inherent. Treaties are, simply put, a record of the retention and recognition of these inherent rights between two sovereign governments, tribal and federal. The Muckleshoot Indian tribe negotiated terms of retained inherent rights via the application of two treaties with the U.S. federal government, the Treaty of Medicine Creek of 1854 and the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. These treaties preserved and detailed the Muckleshoot right to hunt, fish, and gather on our traditional resources and modes of sustenance from the usual and accustomed lands which had maintained our people for thousands of years through hundreds of generations prior to the arrival of the newcomers and the subsequent Western colonization of this region. Through these treaties, and the negotiation of them includes the people who became known as Muckleshoot. They did not specifically name Muckleshoot tribe, nor were the terms of these agreements initially honored by Western representatives for Native peoples whom were named. As a result, it culminated in armed conflict and active resistance by our proud people. Our proud warriors fought to retain our traditional rights, lands, and our politically distinct identity. No matter what fallacy the Western books of history in classrooms try to tell you, no matter what they try to tell you, our Indian people, our indigenous people, these Muckleshoot ancestor warriors were undeniably successful in these campaigns. Their brave efforts led directly to and resulted in winning specific recognition and the retention of our traditional lands. The terms of this victory were negotiated amongst the leaders of our warriors, consisting of representatives of the Nisqually, Puyallup, White and Green River Indians, Muckleshoot, and the territorial governor, Isaac Stevens, in the summer of 1856 at Fox Island. According to the record of Fox Island Council meeting, Governor Isaac Stevens told the Indians who were present, quote, "I will give you land between the White and Green Rivers, and I will send a man with you to mark out the ground so that you may be satisfied," unquote. These same official records make clear that Indians present at the Fox Island Council understood that the base of land beginning at the junction of the White and Green Rivers would be included in the Muckleshoot Reservation, preserving important village sites and fisheries on both rivers. Ultimately, an executive order of January 20th, 1857, signed into law by U.S. President Andrew Johnson, formed the Muckleshoot Indian Tribal Reservation. The reservation we retain as the center of our traditional homelands to this day. This story is not unique to our tribe and not unique to our people. There are many like it, and this represents the history of our shared story. Government-to-government relations are a hidden or little seen or understood function of tribal sovereignty. What I mean is, there's very little known about how this interaction actually works or plays out between our tribal leaders and Western governmental agencies, even though it clearly does happen. If it didn't, I wouldn't be standing here. In order for business to get accomplished, these relationships and functions have to be taking place in an effective and meaningful ways. Tribal leaders must remain dedicated to this diplomatic function in one form or another, in order to safeguard our sovereignty and to forward the progressive nature of our tribal and indigenous agendas. These relationships and interactions must be managed and tended on a full-time basis. With any and all relationships, sometimes things are very positive and good, requiring very little effort to agree. Sometimes things can be much more difficult. And these cases obviously take a lot more effort and energy to repair, to regain, or sometimes, frankly, to replace. This being said, there is a time for diplomacy and for collaboration. There's also a time to dig deep and flat out fight for tribal rights, protections, and tribal sovereignty. Knock down, drag out, kick ass brawls if necessary. Yeah. Knowing the difference and understanding how to drive these interactions and relationships in an effective way while wielding and molding the institution and legacy of these relationships is a vitally important function of any tribal leader, in my humble opinion. Knowing how to balance these extremes and how to make sure you're collaborating on the direction and results. This takes skill, this takes talent in dealing with people and exercising the art of influence. I'd like to thank the City of Seattle for remaining a partner and a collaborator in forwarding the needs and opportunities for Indigenous peoples, particularly of this region. Partners like you help to ensure our future and dignity in our people's quality of life. Hands raised, thank you. As a unified Indigenous tribal voice, we hold the inherent ability to shape and influence policymakers and the policy they make at not only the tribal, but also the local, the state, the regional, and the national level. leveraging this ability to meet both the immediate and the long-term needs of our people and communities while balancing and the maintenance and health-affected relationships is a major task and function. To be effective as an Indigenous peoples and to serve our people's needs, these are the measurable results of doing so effectively. We as Native people face an inordinate number of true issues and real challenges today. It's only through acknowledging these problems and facing them head on through community adherence to our traditional teachings, leveraging new and innovative ideas and technologies, and finally, strong and effective leadership that we can ensure our people's future and quality of life are protected and ensured. Native Americans, who account for less than 1% of the national population, but who make up nearly 2% of all police killings, according to data compiled by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Native peoples are disproportionately affected by mass incarceration. In states significant Native populations, Native Americans are widely overrepresented in the criminal justice system. An example, in South Dakota, for example, Native Americans make up 9% of the total population, but 29% of the prison population. In Alaska, Native people account for 15% of the total population, but make up 38% of the prison population. Native people suffer from high rates of poverty and unemployment. 27% of all self-identified Native Americans and Alaska Natives live in poverty, according to the U.S. Census Bureau data. Native American communities, and particularly Native women and children, suffer from an epidemic of violence. Native women are 3.5 times more likely to be raped or sexually assaulted in their life than women of other races. In reality, where we stand, the city of Seattle is the #1 worst statistical ranked city in the country regarding MMIWP, an epidemic facing this nation in the heart of my homelands. 22% of Native children suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a rate of PTSD equal to that found among Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Natives suffer from PTSD at a rate twice that of all others overall. According to data from the CDC and the Department of Justice, reports that over 80% of violence experienced by Native Americans is committed by persons not of the same race, quote unquote. And that is a rate, quote, substantially higher than for whites or blacks, unquote. Nationally, 14.5% of Native Americans are unbanked and therefore lack the basic financial resources needed for economic prosperity. Suicide is the second most common cause of death for Native youth ages 15 to 24, 2.5 times the national rate for that age group. Due to an overwhelming health crisis combined with a lack of quality health care, Native Americans' quality and length of life is in peril. Average lifespan of our people is 4.4 years shorter than all others, 73.7 for Native Americans, while 78.1 for all others. Compared to the US population, more than twice as many natives live in poverty, according to census from 2013. Native Americans are nearly twice as likely as whites to be unemployed nationally. Native American use of drugs and alcohol starts at earlier ages and at a higher rate overall than any other ethnic group in America. So knowledge truly is power. Educate yourself on the issues facing our people. Contribute to the solution. Our elders and ancestors fought to retain our identity as Native American people, to protect our rights and lands. Their efforts and energy have all led to and culminated in each and every one of us. We are here today solely because of them, and as a result, we all shoulder the responsibility of being a living reflection of our people's history, cultural teachings, and traditions. Not only is this a responsibility we each bear, it's also a huge honor. We do not inherit our existence from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children to the 7th generation and beyond. In healing our people are a strong and resilient group. We have successfully navigated a sad and traumatic history which was designed to devalue, dehumanize, and destroy us as a people. From relocation and removal from our traditional lands to placement of our children in boarding schools and foster systems where we were punished for speaking our traditional languages and maintaining our traditional spiritual practices. Suffering psychological, physical, and sexual abuse, all of these injustices have manifested themselves in our current population through the multi-generational trauma of acculturated behaviors we still suffer from today. Meaning, we were taught the ugliness and harm which exists within our communities by Western society, towards ourselves and towards each other. None of these behaviors are traditional or a true part of whom we are as Indigenous peoples. Drug abuse and alcoholism are a direct result of this trauma. Physical and sexual abuse are a direct result of this trauma. Attitudes of inequity and privilege are a direct result of this trauma. The only way we solve these problems is to heal the core issue. We must find ways to promote health and healing. We cannot continue to allow the multi-generational trauma of our past to perpetuate the sickness of our communities today. We need to heal ourselves and to heal one another. Some of our sickest members are those who need our help the most, need our love the most. Tough love, mind you, but our love nonetheless. We need to promote programs and efforts towards just this. We can't afford to lose one more young person to the disease of addiction, of mental health issues or suicide, to poor health habits. We've lost far too many already. We need to come together and to heal as a community and to heal as a people. Our traditional way of life, the teachings passed down from our Creator to our ancestors and through our elders, is the walk known as the Red Road. This is the life intended for all of us as Indigenous people. Walak Chat, Aswalak Chat, we are strong. If the history teaches us anything, it's that nobody is going to look out for the best interest of tribal people other than or better than tribal people. We as a people have lived through federal policies that focused on removal and relocation from our traditional lands and lifestyles, cultural assimilation through the attempt to kill the Indian but save the man, and cultural and literal genocide, killing our culture, traditions, and beliefs, and killing our people. It's strictly through strength of character and perseverance that we're here as a people and remain. Our ancestors and elders were warriors. Chupchated, in our language, chupchated, warriors. Wise men and healers, knowing when to fight, when to teach, and when to heal. We've retained these identities despite every attempt to remove them from our culture. Through the abuses and degradation of the boarding school era, all the way through our marginalization in modern society. As a result, we must declare in a unified voice, we are still here. We matter. We will continue to succeed and excel. It's because of this history that we must adamantly safeguard against the ever-advancing assault on our tribal sovereignty. We must continue to practice, defend, and advance our treaty rights. We must ratify and enact tribal code and laws which govern our people. We should not ever simply accept the rule of Western government, not simply follow laws never intended for us because that's the easier path. Not allow any outside agency, organization, or person to tell us what's in our own best interest as Indigenous people. This is especially true now. We need to have a plan and an idea on how we'll respond to these issues and challenges, not later, right now. We know what we need. We know this better than anyone. Anybody who tells us that we are not the authority on any tribal issue obviously has something to gain. We must not let them do so at our own peril and our own expense. We have not only survived the past 700 years of colonization, we're absolutely excelling and thriving. This is despite all of the attempts to end our culture and our existence. We've done so ourselves without help or assistance from anyone outside of our own people. To think any outside expert is what is needed now to solve our problems or to address our issues is absolute insanity. We as tribal members, as tribal people, are the authority on how we best meet our own needs and how to best define our own success. That's the very definition of tribal sovereignty. I've been sitting back lately, reflecting on the past few months. I find myself deeply moved by what I've been witness to. Watching our people reach for and achieve greatness on all levels. It's a pure joy that I don't really have the words to truly express or to fully capture the emotion or feeling of. The inspiration, pride, and shared sense of solidarity and accomplishment runs deep as we watch these Indigenous warriors of the 21st century shoot their shot, reach important milestones, accomplish great things, and build themselves, our families, our communities, and our people. It's sacred. It makes up the true core of who we really are as tribal people. This message of thanks, inspiration, and praise, it goes out to the countless Indigenous, Native, and Indian people who inspire, lead, and empower us every day in their own unique and special way, whether an artist, a healer, a leader, an athlete, a teacher, a protector, a student, a professional, a hunter-gatherer, a keeper of language or wisdom, a business owner or entrepreneur, a parent. However we as Indigenous people contribute to our community and culture and blaze new trails for our future, we need to share these messages of hope and beauty to help normalize, reinforce, and spread the traditional value of supporting and building one another up. We need to do so with more energy and consistency than and as opposed to reinforcing and passing on the colonized behaviors of jealousy, criticism, and tearing one another down. If you're doing you in a way that's authentic, that's real, that's rooted in culture and love, and therefore forwards and is a reflection of Indigenous excellence, know that we see you. Our communities see you. Our ancestors see you. So in closing, I task all of you, my Indigenous brothers and sisters, don't talk about it, be about it. Honor the legacy of our people, whether it's acting as a representative of Indian country in places like Washington, D.C., Olympia, or Seattle, through government-to-government relations while fighting to defend tribal sovereignty and self-governance, protecting and preserving tribal culture, community engagement in serving your people and community from the youngest to the oldest and everyone in between, working hard to serve as a positive example and role model for your people, building opportunity and economic future for all of Indian country, or just handling the day-to-day business and grind. Work hard to represent Indigenous people and community from which you come with all you have, a good heart and a good mind in a good way. No matter what you do, this is the truest way to honor where we come from and who we are, to walk in the footsteps of those who have come before, to truly honor our elders, past and present. In honor of this, I'd like to close with words shared by a teacher, a leader, and a mentor of mine. He was an amazing Muckleshoot elder who earlier this year in April crossed over and became an ancestor. I truly miss him physically every day. Then I have to remind myself he's still with me spiritually every day. Our teachings tell me I have to put him away for a year and that I cannot speak his name here today. But I know that he is watching down, and I believe he's smiling today. His words, not mine. Our ancient teachings have helped our people survive for a millennia. Be a good Indian person. Work hard. Always do your best. Tell the truth. Think of others before yourself. Take care of nature, and nature will take care of you. Share what you have. Take no shortcuts in your work or spiritual life. Remember who you are, who you come from. Take care of the graves. Our history is our future. Thank you for this honor and privilege to share these thoughts and words with you as we come together in celebration of Indigenous impact and influence, which lays the foundation for everything we have today. To honor this legacy, our teachings, our culture, the cumulative wisdom of our elders and ancestors, while acting as a bridge to the next, our future, our children and beyond. The next is really what it is all about to be Indigenous. There are days and moments which follow us throughout the course of our lives. Sharing this time and space with all of you, I will carry this day with me from this day forward. My hands are raised to each and every one of you, brothers and sisters. I offer you my thanks, daharup in our language, thank you. With that, hoy, lapsabut disayaya, farewell. Watch over yourself, my friends.
Thank you, Donny. Wow, what really amazing words. I'm moved beyond what I can share with you. I think I'm gonna have to go back to the Seattle channel and watch some video after this so I can catch all of those good words. Thank you, Donny, for welcoming us all here in the traditional territory of your people. I just want to acknowledge that we are bumping up on the 1:30 timeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the rest of what we have for you here today so that you know where we are, and you're welcome to stay. I'm not sure when the video is going to cut off, but I do want to say that we have some really wonderful singers and dancers to come today and share their prayers with you as well. We have Owaste, which means to be good and beneficial for one's healing. This is an inter-tribal collection of Lakota and Dakota peoples who come together to share songs and encourage and lift up one another. So they will be next. And then we will have another group, the Náakw from the Tlingit, and it's also a collection of folks to come together today as well. And then we will wrap up with a song from Mariana Harvey from the Yakama Nation. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today to celebrate with us. And please continue sharing in the music and the festivities. And again, I thank you and raise my hands to you.
Lila Wopi Latanka. Thank everybody. Owaste, or depending on the day, no wash day. But I really want to thank and acknowledge these next generation right here. So if you can give it up for them, give them some encouragement.
Anya Kusani, Gnatin Yuhat Duasak, Chakna Katati, Dakloedi, Ayahat, Kanakamoli Yedi Hetati, Gleka Dachan, Ayahat, Kutsnu Kwandet, Ayahat, Duamish Yet Kuzati, Duamish Yet Hutsati. The first song that we sang is known as the Outside of the House song, or the Dream song, by Eva Rowan, who is from Klawock, Alaska, and is of the Suknoedi clan. And the second song that we sang is known as Ki Hachi, and is composed by my uncle Nahan. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Dujige is the next song we're gonna sing. Gonna sheesh.
people are fighting back as we speak. Yeah. The Palestinian people are fighting back as we speak. Yeah. We've got to look at their example, see what they're doing. It's never too late to fight back. They give us a little run sometimes. It's a day that's keep us quiet. Here's the day. Here's the celebration. Meanwhile, the disparities remain the same. Meanwhile, the situations remain the same. Meanwhile, we still have the same struggles. Disproportionate people. Our people are in the prisons. People are on the streets still. So there's a fight that we can all continue. There's not just one peaceful way to approach it. Yeah, remember that. The best way and the most loving way, I say that here today. Love your people, love your land, defend it by any means necessary. It's never too late. It's never too late. I'm down. I'm down. I'm down. All right. What we wanted to say. Up here, we got several different clans from several different villages. We are Tlingit. We are Tlingit. We are Tlingit. And we want you to know, Heith Jasuhanaya, Hashuka Hastu, Hastu Taseguaya, Hastu Shikiaya, Hastu Tuanaguaya, Hastu Kustiyi, Hatu Shitsini Sati. Ye away Watu Sakuyi that. Ye away Watu Sakuyi that. That's away Yadu Han. Ya Yisku. Hastuji Yesya Kustiyi. Hastuji Yesya Kustiyi. Ya Yaki, Ya Dachkanki Sani. On Yaki away. It's all for them. It's all for these younger ones. We're only holding the culture and the resistance for a little while. Showing these ones how. Showing these ones how. Make these ones happy to be here. Make some noise for them. Some of these grew up in our dance group. And so you guys see us throughout the years. We're just sending our love from our ancestors to you. Thanking you guys for your songs, for your dances, for your culture, for the way you stand up for your people. Lift you up if nobody else has said it. All the quiet organizers who are out there, we see you, we thank you, appreciate you, love you. Good cheese. We're gonna do our exit song now. This song comes from the Deshu Kwan, belongs to the Sukha Khadi people. This is my precious outer shell in our culture. And so we're going to exit on this. It's a trade song. It comes from the Gunana, the people from across the mountains. We have always traded our songs. We have always traded our medicines. We have always traded our foods. So when we think about what Pan-Indian might be, when we think about how we're sharing these medicines with each other, it's for the intention of healing our spirits. That's why we share what we do. That's why we're singing our songs. That's why we practice our language. Okay. Untitled. We are the Náakw Dancers.
Thank you. So we have 4 raffle items. And this will be the last thing before we close it out with our final song. So you do not have to be present to win. There's phone numbers on there. We will contact folks. So Tashina Nunez, if you're still here. Naznu? Okay, mix it up a little bit more. Lydia Sarabi. Lydia? Okay, and for the blanket, Dahana Jimenez. Anyone? Yes. We have one person. There's a blanket. Oh, I don't know, maybe not. Okay, so I have one. Yeah. Or I'm gonna do. Any more? I'll do this one, but we'll just. Okay. Or if you want to. And we do have one more for Nina Haps. Is that Nina Haps? Okay, I guess we're going to be calling folks then. Okay, and again, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here, for taking your time and your spirit to be here to share one another and celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And to close us together as we've brought our ancestors here with us. I could feel them all go all the way from Westlake. I could feel all our ancestors here with us. I'd like to invite Mariana Harvey from the Yakama Nation to share a beautiful song that was created specifically for Indigenous Peoples Day. So warm welcome, Mariana.
I want to invite anybody that wants to sing this song with me to the stage, the Indigenous Peoples Day song. If this is a song you know, or maybe you just want to come up here and learn, you're welcome to come. Shich Pachwai Inknashwanik Mariana Harvey, Washnash Yakama Kanik. Good afternoon. My name is Mariana Harvey. I'm a citizen of the Yakama Nation. My parents are Patty and Ken Harvey, and my paternal grandparents are the late Emma Whitefoot and the late James Harvey, and my maternal grandparents are the late Erna and Wesley Moline. I grew up here in this city, and I created this song that we're about to sing called the Indigenous Peoples Day song. I remember being here in City Hall, witnessing the change after I know many, many people here in this room and people that may have already left, through that advocacy to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day and replace and abolish Columbus Day. And I remember, and I just want to say, Kwatlan Shamash for all of those leaders that brought that down here in the city and cities across the nation. And this song came from when we had our first celebration at Daybreak Star. It was one of the most memorable moments. You know, what's going to happen, I'm sure, is the same recipe this evening. It was that whole center just filled with our beautiful relatives in pure celebration. And we need that. You know, how many times do we gather and we say, so good to see you, but we're mourning one of our relatives? How many times do we get to see each other and we say, oh, I'm so happy I see you, but we're here at a march to raise awareness for one of our loved ones? or all the other reasons that we gather out of hardship. And so I found it so moving that we had a day that was purely out of celebration for the beautiful diversity of who we are as Indigenous peoples. And so the song came to me when I was driving to the second Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. And it's an open song. Anybody that wants to learn it, you're welcome to share it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you to the relatives up here that want to sing together. Kwathlanu shamash. Thank you. Kwathlanu Shamash. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Kwathlanu Shamash to all the relatives coming and sharing the song up here on the stage. And I hope to see you at Daybreak Star. Thank you to the organizers for